farm in the state of Indiana. It is almost a complete skeleton. However, the skull has been destroyed by water. So right here we do see its leg.
See that?
All right. And now we are going to head up these stairs here and go up to this platform. If you are interested, we have a camera set up so you can get a picture down here. So we also have a couple of things to take a look at. Alright, so do we have anybody interested in getting a little family picture down here? That's alright if not. Okay. So up here on the platform, we do have one of my favorite cave features, and that's our cave dragon. So if you look up here, you can see the dragon's head, and then here's her wing, and then right here, wrapping around under the ceiling, is her tail. And you might be noticing that you're getting drift on quite a lot up here. And that's because of these two holes right here. So these holes are actually the bottom sides of sinkholes. And you can see them up on the surface. If you have time to walk our interpretive trail, you can see the tops of them. They're very, very small, so only water and a little bit of organic matter can pass through. But on days when we get a ton of rain, these turn into their own little twin waterfalls. And now most of you are on the right side of the platform here. But if you look way back there, you might be able to see a blue light. So that blue light is actually where the Ice Age entrance to the cave was located. So all of the skeletons and bones that we see on the tour today, all of those animals would have come in through that entrance. It has since closed, but the light does show right where it was. You might also notice up by the Ice Age entrance, there's a little ladder. So that ladder is what they used to get all of these building materials into the cave, because the closest natural entrance is 4 miles away. So instead of dragging all of this through 4 miles of cave, they did create a little manhole with a ladder that came down so they could move everything in.
How long did it take them to build all this?
It took just over a year. So it was a pretty fast development.
Yeah.
And the developers actually wrote a book about it called The Longest Year because of how much work it was. But we are going to head down these stairs now and go to the left to go a little bit deeper into the cave.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't even know if they're taking a picture. You can take your mask off.
Use your hand.
You can't.
Alright, and as we go down these stairs, you want your head on the right. This is the rock of many names. Because of the many names people give it when they get their head on it. We also do have a little cave critter here. So right where my cave millipedes.
Oh, right here.
Don't touch it.
And I've actually never seen one of these in the cave before, so you all are pretty lucky.
There we go.
And if you get a picture of it, and then you go down the stairs so the rest of the group can see it.
Just take a mental image.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Take a picture in your
and
mind.
we'll see later if we can find it on a picture.
Yeah.
All right, there's Dan.
Yeah, if you would just go right past me so everybody else has a chance to see it. Yep. All right. So right here, that's our little cave millipede. Right there.
Is he any different than ones we see?
So it's completely white, first of all. And it also most likely doesn't have eyes.
Oh, yeah?
Yep. So a lot of the animals down here are completely blind because it's so dark, there's no reason to
Put on a
have
flashlight.
eyes.
Bummer.
It's right here, right here.
It would, yes. So these
Oh, right
Right there.
eyes don't do anything
That's
for
the
you,
element.
they're just really a waste of energy. So they have adaptations that allow them to sense their environment in other ways.
It's just a small white bug.
Not so much for
You can barely see it.
who live here all the time, but they might be able to sense changes in temperature in their environment. All right, so here we do have some more bones to look at. So right here under my light, and I can point this out multiple times so everybody can see it, we have the skull of the flat-headed peccary. So kind of imagine a pig in the shape of a deer.
That's why bacon comes.
So they are extinct today, but they do have some modern day relatives such as the wild boar, and they had tusks that they used to dig for roots in the ground.
Connor. Come right here, baby.
And then right here, this little skull is the skull of the fisher. Fishers are not extinct, but they did move back up north with the cold weather, so they live in states like Montana, and they live in Canada. They are a member of the weasel family, and you can actually see a little fisher in the gift shop above the stairs you walked down to watch the video. And I can point it out to you all when we get back if you would like. But the fisher is the only true carnivore we found so far in the cave, but if we find another one, we do hope to find a jaguar as we continue digging. All right. And as we're going down these stairs, you'll see another lovely piece of cave bacon to the right.
Oh, wow, that looks neat. Right here, the light shining through it.
And on this set of stairs, you probably will have to watch your head. There's a couple of low bars.
Yeah.
Hold the rails. Wanna follow on this?
All right. So up here on your right, we do have our active dig site. So this was a project by a former employee here. She was studying geology and came down here to dig for bones. So
Nice.
she started back here, but didn't really find anything. So then she moved up here and found a couple of bones. This little spherical one right here is the kneecap of the flat-headed peccary. So you can imagine how small their legs would have been. And then she moved up here and found a ton of bones. And they might not look like it, but the bones actually have the consistency of a wet graham cracker. So they're very, very fragile. So she had to use these tools right here, plastic and rubber modeling tools, just so she didn't scrape the bones or break them. And we do hope to continue digging in the future, but it is a very, very slow process to ensure that you're not damaging any of the bones.
You're right.
Duck Connor. Something's good.
Be careful your head.
All right.
Be careful.
So after we go down these next set of stairs, look directly above you, and you'll see our upside down potato garden.
Hey, Cameron, what are you talking?
There you go.
Can you take one picture for me? One picture?
All right. So those balls you saw on the ceiling are actually chert nodules. Chert is also known as flint or jasper. It's all the same. And we can see some larger chert nodules right up here. And do watch your step. So that chert we've just passed is actually the Corydon chert layer because it was first described right here in Corydon, Indiana. All right. And we are now at Crawdad Corner, so we can start keeping our eyes out for some cave life. Binkley Cave, which is the cave we're in now, is considered a biological hotspot because there's 21 different species of cave-dwelling critters who live down here. We already saw one of them in the millipede earlier, but we should keep our eyes out for some little crawdads, cave crawdads, and some little baby cave salamanders. But here on your right, we do have our next set of bones. So does anybody have a guess as to what this belongs to? So this is the skull of a Pleistocene black bear.
Wow.
So they were about 15% larger than modern day black bears.
Wow.
And if you notice, it is located right in an area of the ground that looks kind of dug out. So that area is actually a bear bed. So the bear would have come down here, dug out the ground, and slept for 6 to 8 weeks at a time.
Good night's sleep.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And you might be wondering how the bear was able to get in and out of the cave if it was completely dark. And it did so by rubbing up against the walls to leave a scent trail that it could follow in and out of the cave. And you can actually see that scent trail right here on the right. So this discoloration on the wall is where the bear would have rubbed up against it to leave some oils behind. So it could follow this trail to get out of the cave when it was time to wake up. All right. If you all had a good chance to see that. We're about to enter the portion of the cave we like to call Thunder Alley because it echoes quite a lot, and on days when you have big groups of kids in here, you can hear the echo all the way at the beginning of the cave. around a little bit, feel free, but you will have to watch your head.
There. An inch.
All right. So we do have another little cave critter here.
Where's the hook?
So right under my light, it's pretty difficult to see, but you might see a little black thing that looks a bit like a tadpole. And that is actually a baby cave salamander. So they're very, very small, and they tend to only move about 6 inches a day. But when they grow up, they'll be orange with tiny little black spots. And we do have a lot of them down here normally. And if we see more that are closer to the path here, oh, we have another one right here.
I don't see
This one's a little bit closer.
Do you see him?
And also a little
I
bit
don't know where.
larger.
Oh my, oh, I would have never seen
Where?
that.
It's still
Look.
right there.
Right, you see like where the rock is doing this?
Hmm.
You see that little black line? It's moving right now. Did you
Yeah.
see it move?
Over there, it looks like a little crack on the rock.
It actually has super
Okay, I see
tiny
it.
little legs already.
See it.
I would have never been able to spot that.
Yeah, I see it.
But if all of you have had a chance to see it,
Yeah. Oh, I see it now moving over there.
Oh, now I see it. Okay.
I thought it was a crack too.
These things are hidden.
we'll keep looking for a cave.
That's
crawdad.
water.
We do have one here. It's quite difficult to see, but under the water there, you might notice a white blob. So that is a cave crawdad.
I see it. It's
It's
moving.
coming a little bit closer to us.
Oh, okay.
So it is completely white, and much like the millipede we saw earlier, it does not have eyes. They grow really, really slowly. So this guy's probably at least a few years old. And they do like to fight with each other. But we'll try to see a closer one, or one that's a little bit easier to see up ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just the reflection. Everybody's now on the phone now?
Anything.
So it doesn't look like we have many more cave crawdads right now. Yeah, that's a little tiny guy.
Oh, here's one.
Do you have one back there?
Oh, I see it. Looks like one of those pizza
That's
things to
good.
stick
So
into the.
I'm glad. Oh yeah, you all are getting a chance to see one.
Oh, yeah. You see him? Right over in the corner?
Yep.
Over there on the, against the wall.
So that's just another little cave crawdad. And then if you didn't get to see a good view the first time, this is another cave salamander right under my light.
Yep, I see him. See if you two can see it.
But now it is time for our boat ride. So if you all would kindly sit with your families, I will need to try to balance out the weight of the boat a little bit. So if you just sit where I tell you to go, I would appreciate it. So could the three of you go on to the left side there? you're just two, right?
Yep.
If you could go onto the right side, then I would appreciate it. And down, maybe. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, if you will go right here, and then H and G.
I need a little lighting. Oh, here we go.
I'm gonna unhook this
Oh,
from the top here.
flashlight doesn't even work. Can I see your phone real quick?
Are you almost there?
No. Flashlight. No.
I can't see it back. I'm in.
There we go.
All right.
Sit back.
So most people find this portion of the tour very relaxing, so I won't talk quite as much. But if you have any questions for me, I would be happy to answer them, and I will point out a few things as we move along. There are some low ceilings, but I'll try to warn you all before we get too close to them.
Kind of hard to see it down here, and it's so dark.
Right. So the water here might look quite deep, but it's actually only about 3 feet on average, so not very deep at all. And it doesn't really flood down here either, because we are actually in the highest level of the cave, so most of the water we do get drains quickly down into the lower levels. Does anybody have a question they would like to ask?
Got anything?
What about gases?
So like gases, like oxygen or such?
Well, yeah, that and anything that might be harmful, because you always hear about miners getting gas.
Ah, yeah. So it might not seem like it, but the air around us here is being constantly cycled. You might want to watch your head here. The ceiling's kind of low. So there is constant movement of the air in and out of the cave. Sometimes it's barely noticeable. In other places it's like there's a strong wind blowing in the cave. But that cycling of the air makes sure that there's always a circulation of the gases down here. And I haven't heard of us dealing with any dangerous gases per se. These boats don't really produce anything in terms of gases, so.
So is that a natural airflow?
It is, yes. So there is always natural airflow going on in caves between the many natural entrances.
Down here.
And actually in some caves, air will be blowing in one entrance during the winter, but that it will blow out of that very same entrance during the summer. All right, so up here on the ceiling, if you're on the right side, watch your head. This is Skullcracker, and he waits here for people who aren't paying attention to bump their head on him.
Damn.
There you go. Looks like you all made it. All right, and now it's a bit difficult to see, but on your right here, there's actually another bear bed, but instead of a skull in this one, there's actually bones from a flat-headed peccary with tooth marks in them. So it seems as though we had a bear who found a meal in a peccary right in its little bed there. And I'll point it out again on our way back. It's a bit easier to see. And now straight ahead you can see our little cave jack-o'-lantern. This is not a natural cave feature, but it is a feature of a crazy electrician. And even though it's a little frowny face, I find it kind of cute. So this is our turnaround point. So we might bump up against a wall here. It's perfectly normal, but don't be alarmed if it does happen. We'll try not to, but
I say green.
And you might notice that blue-green light on the other side of the room here. So that is a continuation of the cave, and it goes on for over 20 miles. So the original discoverers of the cave actually came in through this direction. They had to go about 4 miles past what we can see now. The water doesn't continue all the way, only for another 500 feet or so. And then it shifts back over to dry land. But while we're down here, in a moment, I can offer to you all, if you're interested, I can turn off all of the lights briefly so you can get a sense of what total darkness is like. Are you all interested?
Yes.
Okay. And of course, it only works if we don't have any phones on. So I will ask you to at least turn them off for now. And here we go. Get ready. All right. So this is total darkness. Your eyes will never adjust to this, so you'll never be able to see anything. You could wave your hand right in front of your face, and you would never be able to see it.
I can see a little bit of it.
Well, that's because we have some lights going on.
I'm sorry, my phone turned.
That's okay. So yes, how would you all like to live in this permanently?
No.
No, I
Come here, would you?
Yeah, right.
So it makes sense then why so many animals down here don't have eyes. Because they're not doing you any good. But I will turn the lights back on.
Yeah.
Did that turn those two off or like everything off?
Oh, not everything in the cave. Just around this bend, all of these lights here. Otherwise, other tours would suddenly find themselves in total darkness.
Just fall down the stairs.
Whoops.
So you might notice that there's not a lot of cave formations here, so no stalactites or stalagmites that we saw earlier. And that's because in about the 100 feet of ground above our head, somewhere there's a layer of either shale or sandstone. And those are rocks that kind of act like an umbrella. They prevent rainwater from passing through them. So that shields water from dripping down in this area, which means there's no formations here. And we are about to pass this bear bed again, and I could try to shine my light right on one of the peccary bones, but it is still going to be tricky to see So my light is right on one of the bones right now.
Oh, I see it. I put the top.
But now you will need to watch your head again. Don't want to catch you by surprise. We are coming back up on skull crackers. So now if you're on the left side of the boat, you'll need to watch your head.
Right in front of us.
Right here. And it looks like we made it fast.
Without any breaking up the skulls.
Nope, no skull breaking.
That's always nice when there's no cracked skulls. But it is, you know, a little souvenir, I suppose. You'll always remember the cave.
For the next 4 months.
Well, possibly.
Yeah, let's get them.
Some of these look like little bricks.
They do. So limestone does tend to form in very blocky patterns. And you can kind of see that here on the ceiling. So it does form these very large bricks, or blocks rather, that do kind of look like bricks.
Well, it's not clear because it's dark.
And remember to watch your head again. The water often looks quite deep because sometimes it catches a perfect reflection of the ceiling above, but it actually is quite murky and shallow water. Many people find it quite peaceful down here on the water. It can be very relaxing. And the coolness is nice on these hot days. We are going to pass through the narrowest part of the water here, so we might bump up against the wall here. And again, it is totally normal. Yeah, there we go. So straight ahead, you might notice all of these white marks on the wall. So these are not natural cave features. These are where bad drivers like myself bump up against the wall and scrape off a bit of mud. We might be adding our own white mark here shortly, but we'll try not to.
I don't think we are. Wow.
So do the rocks continue to break down and crumble a little bit?
Ah, there's a bump.
Scared me.
There's a
You
white
are a
mark for
Florida
it.
driver.
I know.
Do you live in Florida?
Don't take away my license, please. But, so the rocks here are actually very stable, and they don't break very often. They will break down slowly over time, but that's very natural, and it is a very slow process.
Erosion.
Another one bites the dust.
Yeah.
Another one bites the mud. Another boat bites the mud.
Another boat bites the mud.
The same, actually the same boat, so the same boat bites.
And now we definitely will bump up against the dock, but that's what's supposed to happen. But just stay seated until I hook us in. All right, I'll get us hooked in.
That's the fun part.
The water will erode the boat.
Think about one? Are you gonna leave for breakfast or?
Depending on pause or anything.
Pause it.
It's not walking.
You can't pause it.
There we go. So you all can slowly stand up and get off the boat. And if you all would go right down these stairs, I do need to disinfect it really quick. But then I'll be right back with you all. The water is probably about 50 degrees.
Colder than the lake water. It's it's colder
If
than
you
the
all
lake.
would just wait right there, I'll be good there in a minute.
It's colder than the lake water. The lake water was 60 degrees.
Oh, really?
I still swam in it.
I saw you. They sent a picture.
Oh, look at that. It's a
Get a
kayak.
picture of you got it.
Let's.
All right. We could also take a look here and see if we have any more visible cave crawdads. But I don't really see any, except that little tiny one that's just staying right there. So if I could get by y'all, we are going to start heading back. So we just have a couple of different things to talk about.
Cave crawdad bites the sand. Crocodile bites the sand. Crocodile bites the sand.
Yeah, they are all over the place. And there's another crawdad there right under my light. And it's still not super easy to see, but it's moving around a little bit. And now we are going to pass back through Thunder Alley, so remember to watch your head and make some noise. Hey,
Okay, well, that's in the walking normally.
all right. It looks like everybody made it. So now in this corner here, if you look into this light right where my flashlight is, you might see 3 diagonal slashes on the wall. Those are actually claw marks from the fissure. So that little skull we saw earlier is the fissure, and those are some of its claw marks. They're actually all over the cave, but they're just kind of hard to see when it's so dark.
It looked like section of this cave.
Yes, it'll get lost. How's the Wi-Fi down here?
Here we go. So this one's a little bit easier to see. We have a cave crawdad.
Oh, yeah. Right there.
Oh, here it is.
The reflection off the water is blinding.
Salamander, nope.
Remember, there is a step down right here, so be careful.
Okay, here. Right, here's your fingers. Then you move your fingers.
And if you look behind you right here, you'll see this big rock here. So some people say it kind of reminds them of the Titanic, but a lot of people think it looks like an anatomical human heart. So because of that, we call it the heart of the cave. And if you can imagine, this thing was once on the ceiling. We can tell because it's flat on top. But the mud bank that it was sitting on was undercut by water, so it collapsed down to the ground.
But that was loud.
And now we're going back under our upside down potato garden. If you missed it the first time, look up at the ceiling.
I don't know.
So we don't have very many bats here because the natural entrance is so far away. But if you're closer to a natural entrance, then there's more bats because they can come in and leave easily. But right here, this blue light on your right, is the connection to Blowing Hole Cave. So the discovery of this connection added 17 miles onto the total length of Dinkley Cave. They had to send a team in down through this hole and a team in over in Blowing Hole Cave. And they had air horns and smoke bombs and dye for the water. And they used all of those things to get as close as they could to each other. Eventually they dug through a bit of stuff that collapsed and they were able to make a little hole that they could shake hands through. And then they made the hole a little bit larger so one person could pass through it onto the other side. And that officially connected the two caves.
Where does it come out at?
So Blowing Hole Cave is east of here, and it's the main water drainage for this portion of the cave. So eventually, Blowing Hole Cave leads all the way to the Indian River, which is pretty close by. And it feeds it with a lot of its water. All right. So right here on your right, you might look at this and say, oh, you found a bunch of rocks. It's no different than the rest of the cave.
Good job.
But this is actually a fossil. So if you look closely, you might be able to make out the tracks of the flat-headed peccary. So they fell down here into the cave. They knew they needed to get out, so they were climbing up this hill to try to find the exit, but they couldn't see that this ceiling was right here, blocking their way up. So they started digging out of the ground here, here, and here, trying to escape, but they didn't really know that they weren't that close, and they probably weren't going to get out. And it might explain why there's so many flat-headed peccary bones right here on the other side. But this is just one of two caves in the United States where you can see the prints of a flat-headed peccary. And then right here, these tiny white flecks here under the light are actually backbones. So when the Ice Age entrance was open, bats could come in and out freely. So these are little bat bones. They're super, super tiny, and we haven't found a lot of them.
Connor, just wait till we get.
But that is what they are.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Rest in pieces.
So we are going to start heading up these stairs. Remember to watch your head for the low bars.
That's not the wrong city names. We haven't got back to that yet. Did you say hold on?
Yeah. Looks different coming the other way.
All right. We do have a few more formations here to look at. So on the wall behind you, you might notice it has kind of a rough texture. So this is a formation called cave coral or cave popcorn. And it forms when little bits of water are squeezed out of the wall. And then over behind you, hanging from the ceiling here, you might see some little thin tubes. These are soda straws, and they're actually baby stalactites. So eventually their hollow inside will fill out, and then they'll start turning into the more familiar stalactite shape like we see here. So we are going to keep on heading up. On this next set of stairs, remember to watch out for the Rock of Many Names.
Did you get grip on? I did too.
All right. So as we're walking out, look up at the ceiling and you can see our cave dolphin here. This is its little head, and it does drip quite a lot, but the drips are called cave kisses, and some people say they bring good luck.
Yeah, it is.
There's that waterfall. Get it.
And now we are going to start ascending this set of stairs here. Take as much time as you need. We're not in a rush.
Oh my God. I think it's so wet. Oh. We're real wet.
And you all weren't here at the beginning. Did
Yeah.
you catch what these were called?
I forgot what they're
So
called.
these are your stalactites. And these are your stalagmites. And these right here are cave bacons.
Does it ever get hard to breathe down here?
Not really. For me, sometimes if I'm coming up all these stairs trying to talk and wearing a mask, it can get kind of hard to breathe. But not for a lack of air.
Does it like a piece of bacon, doesn't it?
How do the salamanders and the crawdads see if they're underwater? Or like know where they're going? Or not see, but like know where they're going.
So they have ways to like sense the change in temperature around them.
Can they sense ripples in the water?
Yeah, you can't like really.
Possibly. I'm not sure about that one. I know they do have sensitivity to temperature, but I'm not sure what else.
Okay.
All right. But we are going to start heading towards the exit here. On your way by, feel free to take a look at our fossil display. So all of the fossils you see here are not from the cave, but they are all fossils you can find in the limestone around us. And the coral at the back here is from Binkley Cave.
Is that stone?
Yeah, that's another one.
A stone like rock, right? Yeah.
But this does just about wrap up our tour today. I can't answer any more questions that you all might have thought of on our way up. But other than that, you all have been a great group. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And as we pass through these doors, you'll find a staircase on your right that will take you back to the gift shop.
Thank you.